All right. Hi, everyone. Um, I wanted to hop in. I've had a bunch of people messaging me and asking me questions about insulin, so I thought I would hop in here and just kind of give a quick training. I also just finished doing a training on intermittent fasting in my coaching group, and so it's close on my mind. So I have a couple calls coming up, so this is going to be quick, but hopefully helpful for you. So you've heard people talking about insulin, right? Like, you hear it in a couple different ways, and it's probably pretty confusing. So you hear about people talking about it in diabetes, and we hear people talking about it in terms of like weight loss, right? So what the heck is going on? So insulin is a hormone that our body has all the time. That basically, when we eat, insulin goes up when your glucose goes up, and its job is to help you use the glucose to put it into the energy cycles to create energy and to store the rest of it in your liver, in your fat when you're not using it. So it's an important hormone. People with type 1 diabetes don't have insulin. So that's one problem. People with type 2 diabetes are insulin resistant, which means that their cells don't respond to insulin the way that they're supposed to in terms of storing. So that's a very simplified answer. um, when we're talking about this with the weight issue, is that most people who struggle with their weight are insulin resistant in some way, which means that they are constantly deluged with glucose from eating. Their insulin is constantly trying to work to use it or store it. And then your body is getting to the point where it can't listen to the insulin anymore. It's like too much, like too much, too much, too much. And so this is one of the problems that we have. I think, the one thing that I'm constantly talking about is figuring out your what, your when, and your why of eating, right? So the why, we won't get into this now. I've been talking a lot about that in other trainings. The what, being unprocessed, right? The purpose of that is so that you're not getting big spikes of glucose and insulin all the time. You're like getting like this, like that. So that's good. So that's minimizing that a little bit. And you're talking about the when. And so the purpose of figuring out when you need to eat, for you in particular, is to give your body a break from having all of those insulin spikes, like boom, 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 instead of it's like insulin and glucose. And it's like, take a break, insulin, glucose, take a break. So what that does, when you're unprocessed and you start doing taking breaks in between your meals, then you're talking about letting your body realize that it knows how to create its own energy from what you have stored already in your liver and in your fat stores. So like, none of us are going to starve. Okay, we have like plenty of energy stored in our body. What this does, figuring out how your what and your when for you particularly, helps your body just like chill out, use what it has, and helps you shift from being a sugar burner to a fat burner. Does that make sense? Let me share a screen with you real quick and show you a couple graphs which might be helpful for you. Okay, are you seeing that? Let me see. Yes. Okay. So if you're eating multiple meals and snacks throughout the day, you are getting insulin spike, insulin spike, insulin spike, insulin spike, insulin spike. Okay. The height of these insulins is depending on how processed or unprocessed you are. The only time that you're not stimulating your insulin is when you're sleeping. Okay. When you come here, when you're getting multiple meals and no snacks, you're giving your insulin a break. Does that make sense? So breaks between your meals will simmer down the hormone dysregulation that leads to obesity, it leads to diabetes, leads to coronary artery disease, it leads to cancer, it leads to inflammatory cascades, tons and tons of stuff. So when you are unprocessing your carbs, when you are giving yourself a break between meals, you are already tackling, oh, this is crazy. There we go. already tackling the biggest problems that you need to tackle. So the question is, how do you figure out the what and how you figure out your when? How do you figure out for you what works? It's a bit of an experiment, right? The most important thing to be able to stick to anything like this is realize that this has got to be a lifestyle change. It's not a diet, because like diets are bullshit and they don't work because you're just going to do it for like 30 days and get the results that you want, and then you're going to go back to doing exactly what you've done before, right? So figuring out how to make it a lifestyle change, and that's where that why comes in, is really figuring out what is my internal motivator that is going to help me create sustainable, long-term, healthy change for myself. What is it that I want out of that, more than the number on the scale? That helps you keep your what and your when. So I hope that was helpful with insulin. I'll answer some questions in the comments. I've got some strategy calls actually with a couple of you guys coming up here this afternoon. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm always available for you guys in my tribe here. So reach out. Ciao, ciao.